must have been moon glow way up in the blue.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Shopping in America. This is your go-to podcast on all things mall history, department store history, and how consumers in America used to shop and how they shop now. So this is the pilot episode, so I have some things to run down with you guys, but it shouldn't be too complicated. In this first episode, I will be going from the 1850s to about the 1920s and telling you about retail history in that time period and really how department stores got on their feet. And then in the next episode, I will go from the 1920s to now and continue to talk about that history and what happened in that time period. Now I know. I hear you saying, Gio, what you doing? That's not a lot. That seems pretty short. Hear me out. These are just the pilot episodes, people. We have many more episodes in store that'll be longer and go really more in depth into these separate department stores. There'll be a Sears episode, there'll be a Macy's episode, and there'll even be an individual episode on shopping malls. But enough about the future, let's talk about now. Or more, the 1850s. Now I know I said we'd go back to the 1850s, but let's go back a little bit farther. It's 1825, and a man by the name of Aaron Arnold founded a dry goods store under the name Arnold Constable. Now, you probably haven't ever heard of this company, because it didn't do much itself, but the one thing it did do was spark the biggest retail fire in history. No, not an actual fire, but it sure had the impact of one. Skip forward to the 1850s, and Roland Macy, a 38-year-old raised by a Quaker family on an island off the coast of Massachusetts, opened a dry goods store with his brother Charles in Marysville, California. This brand new dry goods store sounded like a good idea, but failed in a short amount of time. Roland moved back out east, leaving his brother in the west. Skip forward about 8 years, and Roland is back at it again with a brand new dry goods store named R.H. Macy Dry Goods. Sound familiar? It should. On October 28th, 1858, it is the first day the store is open for business, and they rack in a total of $11, which doesn't sound like much, but that was back then. $11 today is $338, which is a lot for the first day of a business being open. They continued to expand across to neighboring buildings and were growing as a company. Skipping to 1875, Roland took on two partners, Robert Valentine and Abiel LaForge. But not long after, in 1877, Roland H. Macy died from inflammatory kidney disease, leaving Valentine and LaForge to continue Macy's legacy. But in the next 2 years, Valentine and LaForge both died, and the ownership of the store was given to the family. However, while this is all happening, a new department store by the name of Montgomery Ward has opened up in 1972, located in Chicago. Now, the Montgomery Ward name should sound familiar to you. It opened as a mail-order business and didn't pose any sort of threat on the Macy Company. However, about 16 years later, another company opened up that eventually would be in competition with Macy's for many, many years to come. And you can guess, this company is Sears. R.W. Sears Watch Company opened in 1886 under the owner Richard Warren Sears. This company came after the completion of the first American railroads, which was the perfect time to start a mail-order business. Within the first year of the business being open, Richard W. Sears met Alva C. Roebuck, a watch repairman. In 1887, Sears and Roebuck moved to Chicago and published their first mail-order catalog. 2 years later, in 1889, Sears sold his company for $100,000, which would equal to about $2.7 million today. Richard relocated to Iowa and became a rural banker. Now, back on Macy's end of things, in 1895, the company left the family name and was acquired by Isidor Straus and his brother Nathan. The company was continuing to be successful until 1912, when Isidor Straus and his wife died on the sinking of the Titanic. Though this was unfortunate, it was also the start of a big adventure with this company. Now, on the Sears end of things, through 1890 and 1919, a lot happened. In 1892, Sears returned to Chicago and established a new mail-order firm with Roebuck back as his partner, operating as A.C. Roebuck Company. In 1894, their mail-order catalog had grown to 332 pages, selling almost anything imaginable. In 1895, Aaron Nussbaum and Julius Rosenwald bought half of Sears for $75,000, which equates to about $2.2 million today. In 1906, they made the company public with a stock placement of $40 million, which is around $1.1 billion today. At this point, they were doing extremely well. Sears resigned presidency some years later, leaving Rosenwald as president. Coming into 1919, things were going so well, until Depression hit. And that's where I'll leave you all off. So that's the beginning of it all. That's what started the department stores that we know today. The start was slow, but started something that happened all too fast. In the next episode, I'll finish this retail history journey from the 1920s to now. So thank you guys for tuning in. Future episodes will be longer and go more in depth with individual department stores and why they ended up failing. So don't be discouraged that this podcast is only about 10 minutes. Again, thank you guys so much for listening. I've been your host, Gio, and I'll talk to you later.